All right, let's roll. Friday. Friday before the long weekend, I had to go a little bit early today for Punting 101 just because obviously it's a long weekend. Everyone wants to start drinking. So grab a beer, sit down and enjoy the next 5 or 10 minutes, learn some punting knowledge, and start drinking for the long weekend. Australia Day long weekend should be a good one. But yeah, I'll go through like we've said before. My name's Alex from the Tripod. And basically, what we'll go through today is just 5 or 10 minutes of punting knowledge that you can use to make yourself a better, and avoid less bad bets that you will make. We've gone through a bunch of these. So, hang on, actually, I'll figure this out later. We're trying to use new software here. It's a bit tricky, so I'm somehow trying to get like headings and shit, but I'll just leave it as is for now and I'll figure it out later. But let me just get this sorted here. Okay, sweet. All right, all good. So basically today, guys, what I'm going to go through is 6 ways that you can keep your accounts safe and not promo banned, not restricted, that kind of stuff. Now, I would love to say that I'm an expert to talk about this. Unfortunately, I'm not. I've essentially had every single account that I have either banned or restricted. And look, to be honest with you, this happened years and years and years ago. Sometimes some of these have been, I've been banned for half a decade from. Like, I think Ladbrokes maybe I've been banned for about 8 years. So, a lot of people kind of say, oh, well, why wouldn't you do this stuff now to keep your account safe? The issue is, like, dead set, I haven't had a fully unrestricted account for probably 2 or 3 years. So don't make the same mistakes I did. Unfortunately, yeah, I just won a bit too much, and they banned all my accounts. And some people kind of say, I always see comments like, oh, fuck, I wish my account would get banned. Hopefully I would win that much. You do not want that. That is not what you want. You want to keep all your accounts safe, especially heading into NRL season. That is going to let you get the maximum profit during the NRL season. And also, yeah, just shopping around for the best lines and prices. Like, what I would give to be able to pick from 6 bookies and be able to put down as much as I possibly can. I mean, these days I'm essentially scraping to ask friends to put bets down for me, and that's a hassle, So don't fall into the same trap I did. You don't want to live your life that way where you're essentially have to ask friends to put on bets for you once every week or once every couple of weeks when you find an absolutely great bet that you really like. Oh yeah, you've noticed the glasses. Yeah, I'm getting fucking old now. I'm nearly 30, so I went to get my eyes checked and they are deteriorating. So now I'm a four-eyed fuckwit and I'll be wearing glasses from now on, so I'm trying to wear them as much as I can to get used to it. Let's get to the first one. Promos. Want to get into this one. Now, my accounts weren't necessarily banned too much from promos, but I know a lot of people that have been. And essentially, the secret is, the bookies get you in for the promos, and if you abuse them, if you use them too much and you're not placing too many normal bets, they'll just can your account. You're a promo abuser, etc. So what I did want to go through is a simple kind of guideline that I would recommend to you guys in terms of how much you stake and what percentage of promos you should be playing. So you should be able to see that one up on the screen at the moment. And I would say, for your mug punter, not saying you're a mug, but for your small stakes punter that's putting on 5, 10, anywhere up to $50 a bet, I would say that you're probably safe sticking to about 20% at the absolute maximum of playing promos. Now, I would say that could be 20% of your bets, 20% of your total turnover should be roughly about 20%. Any higher than that, you're probably going to get yourself at least flagged or your account at least looked at. You definitely don't want to be getting up towards, your 50%, playing 50% of your bets as promos. That's a surefire way to get your account shut down. Now, if you're a slightly higher stakes punter, let's say, for example, $100 to $500 as your bet size, I think you should be pretty safe sticking to about 10% promos or 10% of your turnover. If you're betting that much per bet, once again, the opportunity cost of playing all those promos, if your stake is $500, it's not that great. Most promos are capped at like $20 to $25. So you're winning like $25 a pop. And the risk of getting your account shut down if you play too many of those shitty little promos, if you're betting $500 a bet or even $100, I would say the advantage of keeping that account safe, especially for the NRL season where, you kind of know that you have some sort of advantage, is much more beneficial than little $20 and $25 bets that you're going to win along the way. And thirdly, if you're a decent sized punter and, your unit stakes are $500 or more, I would strongly recommend that you don't play any promos at all. They're all capped at around $25-50. The small amount that you win from those promos, it's not going to offset the disadvantage if you're a bigger punter that you're going to get if you can't get on the best line or the best price for a certain bet. So, if you're betting $500 a pop, it is integral that you keep as many accounts safe as you possibly can. You're going to want, because if you're betting $500 or $1,000 a bet, the difference between a few cents that you can find on a better price on a different bookie, it makes such a big difference to your ROI over the season, and that can be the difference between thousands of dollars. So little $25 and $50 promos here and there, if you're a bigger punter, it is certainly not worth the risk for you. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Hopefully you guys can see this. I can't see the comments flowing through, which is slightly weird. I wish I could somehow turn the comments on here, but anyway, I'll try and figure out what's going on. It's fucking tough to figure out. Okay, the next one here that I've got written down is limit your early bets unless they're absolute locks and hide them in multis. So what I mean by this is, we give out a lot of early plays on the NRL. It's a sport that we've proven that we can beat consistently over the last sort of four years. And the best value you can often find is on early plays. And what I mean by early plays is more than a week out from the actual game. So, the round just finished or whatever, and you throw down a bet, and it's a week out or a couple weeks out. And generally, those are when you can find the best value odds. The issue is that bookies look at you and they'll say, oh, fuck, this guy's beating us. He's throwing down a lot of early plays. We're going to ban his account. It happens all the time. So what you want to do, I think, in order to keep your account safe, is just maybe limit the amount of early plays you make. And if you are making them, a week out, 2 weeks out, 2 weeks in advance, or even 6 weeks in advance, like Ladbrokes has all 26 rounds of the NRL in advance, and sometimes 4 weeks out, there'll be a massive injury to a certain team, and then you'll look 4 weeks ahead and find the best bet ever. Now, you don't want to just unload on that because they'll just look at that and say, oh, this guy's an advantage player, we're going to ban him. What you're going to want to do is, look for absolute locks that you can play. You might see a marginal bet that's a couple weeks out. And I would say maybe if you're betting, larger stakes, maybe just don't bet that one and just wait for, really, really good ones to play so you're not always playing early bets or early bets 2 weeks out. And if you absolutely find a line that's 4 or 6 points out on an NRL game, I would say, try and at least hide that one in some multis. You're still going to get the great price on the bet that you're making that's a couple weeks out. But the difference is you look a bit more like a mug if you're putting on multis, and at least if you can find, relatively fair bets to put it with, that's not going to flag your account as much as if you just unloaded $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever on a bet that's not happening for 2 weeks. That will certainly raise some flags for you. Next up, similar kind of thing as the early plays. Bookies don't like if you're just a kid shopping around for mistakes. I made this mistake early on when I was betting. When I first started betting when I was 18 or 19 years old, me and Jacob used to bet when we were 16 and 17. We used to wait outside the TAB and ask people that were walking out if we could give them $5 to put a bet on for us. But once I was 18 and I had betting apps and that kind of thing, that's almost a decade ago, I would actually just I was a freak, but I would stay up past midnight because I knew that was when all the bookies weren't paying attention, and I would troll just every single market, European basketball, all sorts of absolute garbage shit, and try and find mistakes. And I remember the way that I got my Ladbrokes account banned was when I was slightly intoxicated. I'd come home from a party, it was 3 a.m. And I was just going through European basketball, and I found a line that was off by like 10 points. So I unloaded multiple grand on it. This is when I was like 18. I think I unloaded like 5 grand on it or something. Then I bet 5 grand on the other side on Sportsbet. It ends up winning, and then the very next day they're trying to call me. I'm like, fuck, I don't know anything about this. I'm not going to answer. They're leaving me messages to call them back. Nah, don't answer. End of the story was they took away my winnings and banned my account. So that's not what you want. So, with mistakes, it's a tricky one because it's a double-edged sword. It's like you could get a great mistake, and the issue is you bet it and it wins, and sometimes they just won't pay you out. I would say almost most of the time they'll just void it after the fact, and then you'll be there sitting with your thumb up your ass with your money back, and if you've hedged back on another site, then you're out of pocket. So be very, very careful with mistakes. If you must play them, then once again, hide them in a multi. This won't raise as many flags, and especially if they void it after the fact, you don't want to have like a giant sum of money on there and bet, 5 or 10 grand on the other side, to make a profit when there's a very, very high possibility, especially nowadays, they've tightened up a lot. There's a high possibility that they'll void that bet, and it's just not going to end well for you. So I would say be very, very careful betting on mistakes, especially if you're betting small stakes. I would say don't even worry about it. And once again, if you're betting like $1,000 a bet, the main objective here is to keep your account safe. So I would say minimize the amount of time that you are betting on mistakes, and if so, hide them in a multi. Next up, if you've won a bunch on one bookie, obviously, as you know, we always suggest you want at least kind of 5 or 6, preferably more bookies, so you can shop around for the best line, the best price, whatever it is. I would suggest that if you've won a bunch on the same bookie, let's say it's Ladbrokes or Sportsbet or whatever, and you've won multiple thousand or whatever, I would say first of all, probably don't withdraw that money straight away. Bookies don't like it when you win a bunch and then you withdraw it. That raises flags with them. I would say probably throw in just a couple of small mug bets. Giant multis, a fucking horse, a greyhound, whatever. But if your standard bet is $50, let's say, for example, and you've won like $1 grand on Ladbrokes in the last 2 weeks, which is very, very good for you, I would say maybe just to keep that account safe, throw in a couple of $5, $10 bets on the horses, on the greyhounds. Yes, it's going to be negative EV, but it is going to throw them off the scent a little bit and keep your account safe for a little bit longer. So what they don't want to see is you just consistently crushing them for like a month, and then they'll look at that account and they'll probably cut you off. So if you can throw in a couple of mug bets along the way, if you have won a fair bit on that bookie, then that's a good way to throw them off the scent. And on the flip side, if you've lost a bunch on a certain bookie, I mean, most of you guys in the group, you are not necessarily winning consistently, but you should be up in the long term. So, most of the time that you place a bet, you're expecting to win more than you're going to lose. But you may have 5 or 6 bookies available to you. You're not always going to win at an equal rate on each of those bookies. So what I would suggest, you might have won 2 grand in the last month on Ladbrokes, and you might have lost $1 grand on Sportsbet. So what I would say to that is, if you go through your history or whatever, and if you've lost $1 grand on Sportsbet in the last month, I would look to play promos on Sportsbet instead of maybe on Ladbrokes. A lot of these sites have the exact same promos on the horses, the money back, or whatever specials. But if you've lost a bunch on Sportsbet in the last month, they're going to be less likely to look at your account if you play a few promos after you've just lost $1 grand in the last month. You're still up overall. You've won 2 grand on Lads and 1 grand on Sportsbet. But maybe that's the time when you look at your accounts and say, okay, this weekend I'm going to play promos only on Sportsbet and not on Ladbrokes. Because if you win a couple grand on Ladbrokes and then you roll around and you play like 10 promos on the weekend, then that's a surefire way to get your account flagged and possibly deleted. Lastly, if a bet is the same, if you have this exact same bet at the exact same line at the exact same price, it's a similar thing to what I just said before. You bet it on the bookie that you've lost more on recently. So, during the NRL season or whatever, we give out a bunch of bets. Generally, we give out about 20 to 30 best bets a week. We find the best price that we possibly can. But generally, if you've got a $1.91 or a $1.92 line, that's going to be maybe on one or two bookies. So what I would say is if you've got multiple bookies at your disposal, and you know that you're a profitable punter, which, most of you guys should be after the last, 4 years or whatever of being in the group, I would certainly say that if you find two bets that are exactly identical, then I would certainly play that bet on the bookie that you've lost more on recently. And it's a simple reasoning. I mean, if you know that you can make money punting, there's a more like, that bet that you're making is positive EV. So you want that to be on the bookie that you've lost more on recently, as to not flag it. If you bet it on a site that you've won a bunch on, then that's just, even more reason. If it wins, which, you should be winning more than you're losing. But if you bet on a site that you've won a shitload on recently, and that bet wins, it's just a snowball effect that will get your account looked at as well. So, that's just a few things. That's just 6 things that, you guys can do to keep your account safe. I think it's much easier for most of you guys that are just betting, $10, $20, $50 a week or a bet or whatever. It's much easier to keep your account safe if you're betting those sorts of margins. But if you are betting, upwards of $100, $500, $1,000 a bet, then it certainly pays to kind of follow some of those principles. And, if you're betting up towards, $1,000 a bet, then it is absolutely very important to keep as many bookies alive as you can. Because there's nothing worse than putting a bet on when it's not the best price available in the marketplace. It makes me furious, and that's the reason why, I can barely even bet anymore. And, I've got one site that I can bet on, but if it's not the best price in the market, I just won't do it. And it's a hassle asking friends and stuff. So don't be me. Don't have 7 accounts deleted or restricted. Keep as many as you can. We're only, we're less than 2 months away from the NRL season. That's where we butter our bread. So yeah, thanks for tuning in anyway, guys. And I will see you guys, no Super Bowl preview obviously tomorrow. We'll be back on Saturday for a full breakdown of Super Bowl, which should be good. Lots of prop bets, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you tune into that one. It'll be next Saturday at 10 a.m. Queensland time. So yeah, make sure you tune into that one, and we'll catch you then. See you guys.